So we're here with
Alex Steves,
Alex, you are from,
Coastal Leadership Academy.
and today you guys invited
Rohan Murphy.
to speak. And you think they've been very successful?
It's been very successful.
Yeah. Move up there as much as you can, just so Ro doesn't have to scream. So the closer we can get to the front of the stage, the better.
What's poppin'?
If I get everybody's attention, I'm going to introduce Rohan Murphy, and I just want to thank him for coming down here and spending his time doing this for us. So, without further ado, Rohan Murphy.
What are you guys doing today?
Good.
Seniors, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, seniors. Once again, thank you for having me. My name is Rohan Murphy. I am a youth motivational speaker from Long Island, New York, about an hour away from New York City. And today, I'm here with you all to share my story and tell you how I overcame not having legs. But with that said, I'm going to start from the very beginning. And unfortunately for me, I was born with a very severe birth defect that left both my legs deformed. And a lot of kids your age, and even some adults, ask me, what do you mean deformed? So to give you all a bit of understanding, one of you take your hand and grab your kneecaps. When I was born, my kneecaps were on the opposite side. When I was born, my legs were backwards. That's how bad deformed my legs were. At the time, my doctors didn't have any answers for my parents. My parents took it really hard, especially my mom, because she kind of blamed herself. She thought maybe she had done something or had taken something during her pregnancy to really cause this deformity. It wasn't her fault. I guess you could say it was just Mother Nature dealing me a bad hand, and it gave my life. Went on to live life anyhow for those first couple of years with deformed legs, and then finally at the age of 4, my parents and doctors decided that it would be best if I had my legs amputated, taken off, in hopes of someday, maybe around middle school or high school, get prosthetic legs, walker prosthetics. So at the age of 4, I had my legs amputated. But it has some complications to the surgery, and that required 5 additional surgeries afterwards. So as a kid, spent a lot of time in the hospital, a lot of time at home trying to recover, going through surgeries and procedures, and for the first couple of years, I was even homeschooled. Because physically, I just couldn't go to school every day. But then finally, in 3rd grade, like any other kid, I began to attend school. And that first day of school back in 3rd grade, that's when it hit me. That's when I truly realized that I was different. So when I first started going to school, there were just so many things I couldn't do on a daily basis that all my friends and classmates were able to do. And a big thing for me, at that point in my life, now as a kid, was the ability to play sports. Because as a kid, I loved sports. I always had a little natural passion for sports. I think that love and passion for sports came from my father, Noel, because he named me out of state athletes when he was a kid. The first one was a cricket player by the name of Rohan Kanai, and my middle name, Mario, came from a spirit soccer player, Mario Kempes. And that's how I got my full name, Rohan Mario Murphy. But obviously, when you don't have legs, you really can't play too many sports, like travel soccer, Little League baseball. And at a young age, I never thought that I would ever have the opportunity to play competitive, able-bodied sports. But thankfully, that all changed back in middle school, back in the 8th grade, because of one person, because of one teacher. My 8th grade phys ed teacher, Mr. Ron Proto, or Coach as I call him. And you see, most students in schools, like all of you, don't really know or realize that the teachers and administrators in their schools have that ability and that power to change your lives for the better. But trust me, believe me, they do. And that's exactly what Coach did for me. See, Coach realized once again, by not having legs, obviously, I couldn't play most sports now, like soccer. She was coaching at a middle school. So Coach was nice enough and kind enough to make me a team manager for a middle school soccer team. And by becoming a manager for the middle school soccer team, I would have practiced every day, I put all the games, I would help them take stats and attendance, and finally, for the first time in my life, I was actually a part of a sports team. And I did such a good job being a manager for a soccer team during the fall. The very next season, during the winter, Coach once again gave me that same role as manager, but this time for our school's wrestling team. So I did a pretty good job once again being his manager during wrestling season, helping him out with the team. But then one day, towards the end of the season, Coach came up to me for phys ed class, and I'll never forget that day. He has a big smile on his face, comes right up to me, he looks at me, and he tells me, anyone else. And I asked him, right, coach, but if I don't have legs, how in the world can I wrestle? He said, it'll be easy. He said, I was have to somehow roll myself out onto the mat, jump on the mat, grab kids' legs, and take them down. And I told him, coach, thanks, no thanks. And I told coach, wrestling wasn't for me. I told coach I was happy just to be the manager. But I think about coach, what really made him great, and what really made him special, not only as a teacher, but as a person, coach did not give up on me. He did not give up on me. He was so persistent. Every single day, he just come up through the hallway in school. He would try to get me to join a wrestling team, the hard sport of wrestling. And usually I'll tell coach no. But one day at school, coach finally got a hold of me. Literally. He brought me down to a practice room. He started really showing me and demonstrating to me how I can wrestle, how I can take people down, how I can pin people, even without legs. And I couldn't believe it. Finally, I found a sport that I can do. I found a sport that I could actually play. I told my coach, you know what? Next year, while I'm in high school, 9th grade, I'm going to try for a high school wrestling team. I'm going to somehow make the team just for you, coach. He said, all right. So, of course, now I had to talk to my parents about it. But my mom did not want me to wrestle. I mean, you guys know how moms are. My mom was so worried about getting hurt, getting injured. And she just said to me, bro, you can be out there wrestling kids with legs. You can be at a huge disadvantage. Aren't you worried? Aren't you afraid that you're going to lose a lot? Told her no. I was not afraid to fail. And if the sport of wrestling didn't work out, then so be it. At least at the end of the day, I say, I try my best. My parents said to me, all right, bro, go ahead and do it. So 9th grade year came and did just that. Went out for high school wrestling team. And that first practice back in 9th grade, it was huge. It was probably the most important in my life because if I was somehow going to be able to go out there and wrestle kids with legs, I couldn't wear those prosthetic legs. I couldn't wear those fake artificial legs that I wore every single day when I was your age, when I was younger. Why? Not because they helped me get around, not because those fake legs made my life any easier. I wore those legs because still, at that point in my life, I was still so embarrassed, so insecure, so ashamed about being different, so ashamed about not having legs, so ashamed about being disabled. And I finally said to myself, you know what? I have to be who I am. I have to be Rohan Murphy. I have to live my life to the fullest. And hopefully, all my new teammates on the wrestling team will be kind enough to embrace me for who I am. So once I had first practice anyhow, I remember hopping on my wheelchair, crawling out in the middle of the mat, sitting down, and looking at all my new teammates around me. And I really truly thought that maybe someone was going to make fun of me, bully me, because, I was so different. But something that practice happened, which amazed me, that I'll never forget. Something amazing happened. All my new teammates, every single one of them came up to me, one by one. They shook my hand, they looked me in the eyes, and they said to me, bro, it's great to have you on our wrestling team. We're going to have a great season. And for the very first time in my life, outside my own family, I felt acceptance. I felt I belonged somewhere. I'm telling you this because what I would love from all of you, for not only your next 4 years in college, but for the rest of your lives, not only for your next 4 years in college, but for the rest of your lives, I would love all of you. I would love all of you to be inclusive, not exclusive. Be inclusive in life, not exclusive. And for me personally, speaking at schools all across this country, telling kids to be inclusive, that's not an anti-bullying stance. Telling adults to be inclusive, that's not a liberal stance. To me, being inclusive in life, that's a human stance. So once again, as we grow older, become a good human being and be inclusive, not exclusive in life. But anyhow, I went on to wrestle 9th grade. I wrestled JV junior varsity, and that first year, I didn't do too well. That first year wrestling junior varsity, I finished the season with a record of only 2-13. 2-13, 2 wins, and 13 losses. I know, not very good. But after that season, I started to think to myself, what if I could somehow overcome this? What if I could somehow, despite of all of this, really become successful? And not only in wrestling, but become successful in school and life as well. Wouldn't that be remarkable? Wouldn't that be extraordinary? So after that first year, 9th grade, started to work really hard in the sport, trained really hard over the summer, came back in 10th grade, improved a lot, made a varsity team in 10th grade. And I finished that season on varsity with a record of 25-6. So just 1 year, I went from 2-13 on JV to 25-6 on varsity. But still, after that year on varsity in 10th grade, I wasn't really happy. I wasn't really satisfied. You see, for me, good just wasn't good enough. sitting there holding that big award, that big trophy, and my mom was sitting right next to me, and she asked me, bro, what's wrong? Why aren't you happy? Why aren't you smiling? I told her that, Mom, I don't want this award for most of the wrestler. I don't want this award. I want the other one. I want the one for MVP. I want the award for best wrestler. So, after that dinner, had a little meeting with my coach and asked coach, how can I somehow get to our next level in the sport of wrestling? Once again, how could I go from good to great? He said, bro, this summer, why don't you try going to wrestling camp? Maybe even 2 camps, maybe even 3. I told him, all right, sure. So I went home with my parents anyhow. We did some research on camps from all across the country. And most of the camps that I found were pretty similar. 3-day camp here, 4-day camp there. Nothing really stuck out to me. Then I finally found this one camp that's pretty special, that's pretty unique. It was called the J. Robinson 28-Day Intensive Wrestling Camp, which was held all the way out at the University of Minnesota. And I did some research on the camp anyhow, found out that all the wrestlers, all the kids would go there, wake up every single morning bright and early at 6 a.m., work out for 45 times a day for 28 straight days. I told my parents, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. Not only for wrestling now, but for life as well, because around this age, I was beginning to really look at colleges. And growing up, ever since I was a little kid, I had 2 goals for myself. I had 2 goals that I really wanted to accomplish in life. One was to find a sport that I can play, which I found, thankfully, the sport of wrestling. But the second goal was, someday after high school, I wanted to attend a big university. I wanted to live on a big college campus, independently, by myself, like any other college student. And someday, earn a degree and graduate from that school, college, or university. And for me, that was a big deal because growing up disabled, don't get me wrong, but growing up disabled, I had a great family, great parents, I was very lucky, very blessed. But my parents, especially my mom, were very, very, very overprotective. I guess you could say as a kid, I was pretty sheltered. To give you an example of that, give you some context. When I was younger, back in middle school, anytime my class or school would go on a field trip to, say, the Empire State Building, Washington, D.C., Frost Valley, which is located in upstate New York, my parents, or my mom, I should say, never allowed me to go. She would never allow me to attend because she was so afraid that something bad might happen to me. So finally, at the point in my life, I told my mom that just time to let me go. It's time to set me free. It's great. They allowed me to go to this camp at the University of Minnesota, and this camp has changed my life. It really gave me a different perspective on things, like how much hard work, dedication, and sacrifice is going to take to be great. And not just wrestling, but anything else in life as well. And some of those workouts that we had to do as wrestlers, some of those drills, as they call them at camp, that we had to do, they were pretty tough. They were pretty challenging. Let me give you an example of one. So at camp, like I said, we wake up every single morning bright and early, 6 a.m. And usually, we would have a running practice. And since I didn't have legs, most of the time, I would just do laps around the track by myself in my wheelchair. But this one morning, my camp counselor really wanted me to push myself. He really wanted to challenge me. My camp counselor happened to be a guy by the name of Brock Lesnar. You guys ever heard of Brock Lesnar? Any of you seniors?
Yeah.
Who is he?
He's so famous MMA fighter.
Yeah. I think he was a champion in WWE, right?
Yeah.
He's a champion in the UFC as well. So one morning, Coach Lesnar brought me down the middle of the track, but it was a football field. Coach Lesnar brought me down to one end zone. He said, bro, I'll buy you a wheelchair, which I did for him. He then looks at me and tells me, all right, bro, I want you to somehow, for me, try walking down to that end zone in a handstand, 100 yards, all the way down. Once you get down to that first end zone, he then said, bro, how about you try doing a pyramid of 10 push-ups? Try doing a pyramid of 10 push-ups. Then after all that, bro, he said, try walking back down, another 100 yards, back down to his first end zone. And initially, I thought Coach was kidding. I thought he was kidding. I thought he was joking. But he wasn't. And that was the point of my life when I would just do anything to improve. I would do anything to make myself not only a better wrestler, but a better person as well. So I did for Coach 100 yards, just like this. And to be honest with you, I was having a pretty difficult time. I was stumbling. I even fell down a couple of times. And I had to pick myself back up, like so. Yeah, I know. Savage, right? But finally, I made halfway to the 50-yard line. I made halfway to the 50-yard line. And Coach Lesnar surprised me. Coach Lesnar told me, because the workout was so hard and so difficult, that I could stop and go back. Coach Lesnar told me, because the workout was so difficult, that I didn't have to finish. But I told Coach no, because I was the type of person that when I start something, I'm gonna so 100 yards, just like this, all the way down. I finally made it down to that first end zone. Now Coach Lesnar told me how to do a pyramid of 10 push-ups. And that's pretty tough in itself, right? Because a pyramid of 10 push-ups isn't just 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes something like this. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah, and I'm not going to do all 10 now, all right? You guys get the point. But finally, after all those push-ups, another 100 yards, back down to the first end zone for Coach Lesnar. And I just remember sitting there on that hot field turf saying to myself, Coach Lesnar's down and waiting for me. I had to finish. I couldn't let him down. But with all that said, here's the important part. I always tell kids a story because growing up, my family and I, believe me, trust me, we were surrounded by a lot of different doctors, physical therapists that always told me what I couldn't do in life. They always told me what I wouldn't be able to accomplish in life without legs. So, growing up as a kid, whenever somebody told me that I wouldn't be able to accomplish something, I did it anyway, just to prove them wrong and prove to them that I can be successful, no matter what. And let me give you a quick example of that. Hey, Alex, do me a favor? Can you put this on stage for me? Growing up, like I said, I had two goals for myself. Growing up. 2 goals. Play a sport, and then someday at the high school, graduate from
College.
someday at the high school, graduate from
College.
Thank you. So one day back in 11th grade, I had a meeting with my guidance counselor. We were in his office, my parents were there as well. We were going over life at the high school, colleges, universities. I told my guidance counselor, my first choice was Penn State University. Penn State, a school that was academically, great school academically, but a school with also one of the best, if not the best, Division I wrestling programs. I told them I wanted somebody to go to Penn State. I told them I wanted somebody to wrestle at Penn State. But most importantly, I told them I want to someday graduate from Penn State University. When he told me, my guidance counselor, he said to me, Rohan, Penn State, that's a great school. I know you got the grades for it. I know you got the academics for it. But Penn State, man, I don't know if it's right for you. He said that's a huge campus. 45,000 college students on one campus. He said to me, bro, Penn State, how would you get around by yourself? That's a huge campus. He also told me that it snows there in winter, and believe me, it does. With Penn State, it's up in the mountains. He said, well, bro, if it snows, how would you get to class on your own? And I never forgot that. I never ever forgot that. And to make a long story short, yeah, I went to Penn State. And I graduated from Penn State University. And just in case any of you are wondering how I was really able to get around campus, get to class on my own when it snowed, simple. I would call campus security, have them pick me up, and take me to class. Easy does it. Easy does it. And back to that camp anyhow, I think I impressed Coach Lesnar by doing that workout across the football field. Why? Because he made me do it again. Great guy, huh? And the very last day of camp, it's pretty special. They call it graduation day. The 28th day of camp, the last day, before each wrestler was allowed to leave, before each wrestler was allowed to go home, each wrestler had to run a marathon. Simple. You run a marathon, you leave, you go home. But the thing about the marathon that really made it different was that for the very first time at camp, each wrestler is given a choice. Each wrestler is given a choice to run either 5, 10, or even 15 miles. Take a wild guess at how many miles I chose to do in this wheelchair.
15.
Well, honestly, it was probably 16 or 17 because I got lost on the way home. But the point is, just like all those kids at that camp, all of you, believe it or not, all of you have a choice as well in your own lives to be either average, good, or great at whatever you love to do. Whether it's a favorite subject in school, favorite sport, art, dance, music, theater, you all have a choice to be either average, good, or great. I hope, for here on out, you choose to be great. I hope, for here as you all know, you ain't living twice. You get one life. You get one life. So you might as well make it count.